if you are looking for the most beautiful refurbished pocket watches or pocket watch conversions on the market, then you're going to love today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Mr. Brendan Frett.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Michael. So, my name is Brendan Frett, and I am the founder and watchmaker at Frett Co. Clockworks. And we are a small batch custom pocket watch and conversion company located in Little Rock, Arkansas.
I appreciate that introduction because I was about to say for anybody who has not yet heard of your company, if you could give us a little elevator pitch. So that was a perfect way to start us off.
All right, that's a good way to start.
Exactly. So what I love most about what you do is taking pocket watches and making them wearable for today. I think a lot of times when people think of a pocket watch conversion, they think of something kind of crudely soldered together, or maybe there's no real value, horological value in wearing it because it's a conversion. But the people that say that obviously have not seen the kinds of watches and conversions that you guys do over there. So as somebody who we sell a lot of pocket watches here at the Watch Preserve, and as somebody like me who's still kind of learning about the amazing world that pocket watches have to offer, I think that you guys offer something really unique for the market. And I'm just curious, like how you started in this very, very niche little corner of the watch world. I think on your bio on the website it says that you're a scientist originally by trade, so there was probably already some sort of interest in small workings.
Yeah, no, no, of course. And for me, the whole like world of watchmaking kind of opened up when I got my great grandfather's pocket watch from the 1800s. So I inherited that, and I was about, I think maybe 10. It was in the late 90s. I was born in 1987, and the fact that something that old could still work and still do the tell time, it serves the same purpose today as it did in the 1800s, was kind of, I mean, mind blowing to me. And that kind of planted the seed of being interested in watches, but more particularly in vintage American timepieces. And ever since that happened, right, we've always had that type of interest in vintage American watchmaking. So
Nice.
that was kind of
I
the
Yeah, I think that's such a common trend with a lot of people that I end up talking to on the show is that sort of that early like foundational connection to something mechanical. And I think what you touched on is really interesting that it does the same thing today that it did in the 1800s. And
yeah. I
I think
don't
that's such a beautiful way of like wrapping that up, that that machinery is still functional and beautiful and perfect.
Yeah, I can't think of anything back then other than the like a timepiece that still has the same function today that can still be used today for the same reason it was used in the early 1800s. So it's pretty crazy. And so yeah, that really got me fascinated in it.
Nice. And so talk to me a little bit about your personal background. Are you from Arkansas originally? Did you go to school to study science or something?
So yes, I am from Chicago originally. So I
Okay.
was born and raised. Well, anyone that says they're from Chicago is probably not from the actual city, from a suburb. So I'm from Evanston, which is the suburb
Okay.
just north of Chicago. So I was born and raised there, and I went to school to study medicinal chemistry. So I actually have a PhD in medicinal chemistry, and that gets into like the same part of my brain that's interested in watches because studying how drugs work and kind of how they interact at specific receptors and how they can help treat different types of disease, and in that process of learning about the science part, right, it still is kind of engaging that same creative kind of tinkering because I do a lot of work in labs, for my I have a research program. So during the day, I'm more of like science teaching and doing research, and then I moonlight as a watchmaker at night, to kind of balance the different ways that I can use my creativity and tinkering.
Mhm. Nice. Do you know Jarrett Harkness from Unwind in Time?
No, I do not know him.
he spent several years as a pharmacist, actually. So maybe you guys should connect and talk
So
about some parallels.
that's kind of that's very it's hidden close to home because I I'm a faculty member in the College of Pharmacy here in Little Rock at the
Oh, great.
hospital. So I teach PharmD students. So it's kind of funny that got that pharmacist. So there is big interplay between science and watchmaking because I mean, for me, right, watchmaking is kind of two things. It's physics and chemistry, and they're kind of working together, especially when you're thinking about it from like a restoration component, like a standpoint.
Sure. That's really interesting point that you just brought up because I've talked to a couple watchmakers, and I don't think anybody has really drawn a parallel. A lot of people will talk about physics or mathematics, but they don't bring in the chemistry side, which I think is a really interesting point that you bring up. So for you, I mean, as not a watchmaker myself, I mean, something that would come to mind would be the first thing would maybe be lubrication, the interaction of, how the chemicals and the lubricant work and to keep everything loosey goosey in the movement. The thermal heat coloring that you guys do, definitely for sure. But talk to me a little bit more about that, about how chemistry pulls into watchmaking.
Yeah, so it's more so in like the restoration process, like removing corrosion from a watch movement that wasn't really taken great care of, or was.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people that, I mean, smoking was big back in the day, so in people that like watchmakers that were smoking, a lot of the movement picks up those chemicals and it tarnishes it. And coming up with different ways that you're able to remove that tarnish without removing like the underlying movement decoration takes a lot of chemistry because you want to be able to remove the damaged layer, right? That from time just patinaed or however it
Hmm.
was taken care of, and not remove any of like the beautiful the Geneva Damascening, or I call it Damascening, patterns on the movement. Also with like the jewel settings, they're brass, and brass over time will patina, and coming up with a way to kind of remove the corrosion on the brass so you're able to kind of showcase the brilliant like glow of the jewel settings that they when it was first manufactured, coming up with ways to kind of make the movement, I guess, look more like it did when it left the factory, takes a lot of chemistry. And then obviously the thermal coloring is a whole nother thing that is essentially with heat you're inducing a chemical reaction on the face of the metal to cause it to change color. So there's a lot
Are,
of chemistry involved.
are some of these techniques, obviously thermal coloring has been around in the watch industry for a long time, but are some of these techniques like specifically for restoration on the brass components or the jewels to bring back that original luster and color? Are some of these techniques things that you have sort of come up with your own process for, or are you building on the people that came before?
So I guess the big problem with like the vintage American, there is guidance, but most of it is blogs, and you're reading about other people's techniques that they've used. So I kind of see what people have been trying, and then with my own experience, because for the research component at when I'm a scientist during the day. I guess I'm a scientist all the time, but during the
Hmm.
day, a lot of the work that I do is like organic chemistry based. So we are like building different types of new drugs to test, and so I have a pretty good understanding of chemicals in general. And using some of the information that I get online, I can come up with ways to, like, for instance, remove tarnish from a plate. And I think I have some a lot of before and after pictures on our Instagram, and then also on our website, where you can remove tarnish, and the movement looks brand new, where you don't have any type of issue with removing the part of the movement that you want to come out again. And so a lot of it has been trial and error,
Hmm.
but we have it down. Well, I guess for lack of a better word, to a science at this point.